All right, get ready because today we're going deep into LLMs, those large language models you keep hearing about. And you know how people keep talking about AI and all the cool things it can do?
Yeah,
Well, we're going to look at something that can totally change how well those AI models perform.
totally. And it's something so simple.
It's crazy.
It really is.
It all comes down to how you format your prompts.
Yeah, we're always thinking about like what to ask these AIs.
Right.
But this new research from Microsoft and MIT, it's really cool. It shows how important it is how you ask.
So it's not the words themselves, but the way you arrange them or the format you use.
Exactly. It's like, you know how a cake recipe can turn out totally different?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Even if you use the same ingredients?
Right.
It depends if you follow the steps carefully or just chuck everything in a bowl at once.
Okay, so I'm getting the formatting is like the recipe steps for talking to AI.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Awesome. Well, let's get into the details of this research.
Okay, sounds good.
So the researchers, they took 4 popular GPT models.
Which are kind of like what powers ChatGPT, right?
Exactly. And they gave them a bunch of tasks to do.
Like a real AI obstacle course.
But here's the thing. They used the same prompts for each task,
Okay.
but they formatted them in 4 different ways.
Ah, that's how they tested it.
Yep, they used plain text, Markdown, YAML, and JSON.
Okay, so for people who aren't like tech wizards, could you break down those formats real quick?
Totally. So plain text is just like, well,
Like basic writing.
yeah, exactly like what you're reading right now. No fancy stuff.
Markdown is a bit more structured. It's what you see on like Reddit or in some online documents, with headings and bullet points and stuff.
Right, like to make things easier to read.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Markdown. What about YAML? I've heard of it, but
YAML is really good for organizing data. It's easy for both people and machines to read.
Okay.
Kind of like a super organized outline. That's YAML.
Got it. And then JSON, that one always sounds kind of technical to me.
It is more technical. It's how machines talk to each other, like a digital instruction manual.
So basically they gave these AIs the same instructions, but they dressed them up in different outfits.
That's a good way to think about it, yeah. Different formatting outfits.
And what happened? Did the AI get confused by the different outfits?
Well, maybe not confused exactly, but the formatting definitely had a big impact.
Like how big are we talking?
They saw performance changes up to 40%.
Seriously, just based on the formatting?
Just the formatting.
Wow, that's huge.
Right. Especially if you're using these models for something important like coding or analyzing data, that difference could be a big deal.
Okay, so 40%, that's not just like a small change, that's a game changer. So which format was the best?
That's the interesting part.
Ah.
There wasn't one clear winner.
Really?
Yeah, what worked best depended on which model they were using, what task they were doing, even how complex the prompt was.
So there's no magic formula for formatting. It's not one size fits all.
Nope, definitely not. It's more nuanced than that.
Okay, that makes sense. But did they find any general patterns or anything we can learn from this research?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like what?
One of the coolest things they found was how model size relates to what we might call formatting robustness.
Okay, formatting robustness, what does that mean?
So basically, it means how well a model can handle different formats without messing up.
Got it.
And they found that bigger models were generally less affected by changes in formatting.
Okay, so like GPT-4 with its billions of parameters.
Exactly.
Wait, hold on, parameters. It's been a while since my AI 101 class.
Right, good point. Think of parameters as the connections in the AI's brain. The more connections, the smarter it is.
So bigger models, more connections, less bothered by formatting changes. That's good news, right?
It is good news. It means as AI gets more advanced, we might not have to worry so much about formatting perfectly.
You'll just understand what we mean regardless of how we present it.
Yeah, like they can see the forest for the trees.
That's awesome. But wait a minute. Didn't I read something about GPT-4 having a little trouble with JSON formatting?
Oh, yeah.
Like it had a blind spot or something?
You have a good memory.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so even though GPT-4 was usually really good and consistent, it did have this weird issue with JSON on a specific coding task called human evil.
So even with all its billions of parameters,
Yeah.
all those connections, GPT-4 can still get tripped up by formatting
It just goes to show that even the most advanced AI still has its quirks.
and its limitations.
Definitely. And that's what makes this research so important.
It shows we need to keep learning more about how these models work
Yeah, but like not just what they can do, but how they do it.
and where their weaknesses are.
Exactly.
This is so cool. It's like we're peeling back the layers of the AI onion here.
It is fascinating.
So what else did they find out?
They also looked at how consistent the models were.
Consistent.
Yeah, like if you gave them the same prompt but formatted differently, would they always give you the same answer?
Ah, okay, that makes sense. So did they find that the AI was consistent?
Well, the bigger models were much more consistent.
So like GPT-4 again.
Yep. It was almost like they could see past the formatting and just understand what you were asking.
So it's like the formatting was just a different language, but they understood the meaning.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, so that makes me wonder. If you find a format that works well for one model, will it work for other models too?
Ah, that's a great question. They actually looked into that too. They called it transferability.
Transferability. So like, can you transfer a winning format from one model to another?
Exactly. And would it still work?
So what did they find out?
Well, it turns out it's not that simple.
Oh.
There's no guarantee that a format that works for one model will work for another.
Even if they're like similar models?
Even then, it's like assuming that if you speak French, you can automatically understand Spanish.
Right. There's similarities, but they're different languages.
Exactly.
So even though AI is getting smarter, we still have to figure out the best way to talk to each model.
Yeah, it's a continuous process. We need to keep experimenting and learning as AI evolves.
It's like we're both learning each other's languages.
That's a great way to put it. It's a really dynamic field.
This is blowing my mind. It's like we're watching the evolution of how humans and AI talk to each other.
It really is, and it has big implications for how we use AI in the real world.
Oh yeah, for sure, like in healthcare or finance?
Exactly. If changing the formatting can change the results by 40%, the stakes are really high.
That's a bit scary, actually. So for someone like me who's not a coding expert, what's the takeaway here?
I think the biggest takeaway is to just be aware of how you're formatting your prompts.
Okay, so don't just focus on the words, but also how they're arranged.
Yeah, try different things and see what works best for the model you're using and the task you're doing.
So it's like prompt formatting is an art form, in a way.
I like that. It's a way to shape how the AI responds.
Okay, I can get behind that. Now let's go back to GPT-4, and it's an issue with JSON. I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Why do you think this powerful model struggled with that format?
Well, remember we talked about parameters being like connections in the AI's brain?
Yeah, billions of connections.
But even with all those connections, there can still be gaps in its understanding.
So even GPT-4 isn't perfect.
Nope. Even the most powerful AIs still have quirks and limitations.
And that's why we need to keep researching.
Exactly. We need to understand not just what they can do, but also where they might struggle.
And this JSON issue with GPT-4 could be a clue to something bigger.
It could be. This study definitely raised more questions than it answered.
And that's a good thing.
It is. It means there's still so much to learn about AI.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. So before we wrap up, I have to ask, where do we go from here?
That's a great question. If we're seeing these big changes with common formats, imagine what's possible if we get even more creative with our prompts.
Could there be some secret formatting code out there?
Maybe. Or maybe it's more about adapting and evolving our prompts as AI changes.
It's like a dance between humans and AI.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to a whole new side of AI.
Me too. It's not just about algorithms and data. It's also about how we communicate with AI.
And how that communication can shape the results.
Exactly.
You know, it's funny, we talk about AI learning our languages. But it seems like we're learning to speak AI's language too.
It's true, right.
It's like we both need to understand each other.
And that's what makes all this research so cool. It's not just about like making AI better at specific stuff.
Right.
It's about understanding how it thinks.
Yeah, like getting inside its head.
And figuring out how we can work together.
I'm definitely thinking about AI differently now. Before I just typed in whatever. But now I'm going to be more careful about how I format my prompts.
That's great. And remember, we're just scratching the surface here.
Oh, I bet.
As researchers keep looking into this stuff.
Yeah.
Who knows what else they'll find?
It's exciting to be part of this whole new field of AI linguistics. Well, I guess this is the end of our deep dive for today. I hope you learned something new about the power of prompt formatting.
Me too.
And how it can change the way we talk to AI.
It's pretty amazing.
If you want to learn more, we've got links to the research paper in the show notes.
Yep, you can see the different formats they used and everything.
It's really cool to see how this research is done.
It is.
Well, that's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.